Hi everyone, I'm Amy Hsiao, your personal family lawyer, and today we have Dr. Bob Uslander here with us. Today our topic is what happens if you are incapacitated? What kind of decisions can you ask your loved ones to make for you? There's a document called Advanced Healthcare Directive, and what this document does is that you nominate people who can make decisions for you when you cannot make them for yourselves. A lot of the times, what I see in my practice is that people name their loved ones to make decisions for them, but what happens in urgent medical decisions is that these people don't know what kind of decisions to make. And it would have been super helpful if they had had a conversation with Dr. Bob. And so, Dr. Bob, could you please share with us what are some of the things that people should consider when they are nominating people to make medical decisions for them, or maybe in your practice, what do you see as the most common things that you want people to think about?
Those are great questions, and they can have huge impact. The only time when the healthcare agent is actually able to speak on behalf of the individual is when they can't make decisions on their own. I think it's important to remember that if you have capacity and you're competent to make decisions, then your healthcare agent doesn't really come into play, nor does the Advanced Healthcare Directive. But once you're unable to because you're confused or unconscious or too ill, then that person, that individual who you have chosen as your healthcare agent or medical power of attorney is essentially asked to make the same decisions that you would make. And they are looked to direct your care. So you might think that you want to nominate somebody to be your healthcare agent who cares about you and would show up for you, and that's important, but you also have to make sure that they're emotionally capable of making difficult decisions, the decisions that you would want, even if it's hard for them. So there could be times when somebody needs to make a decision to take someone off of life support or to withdraw certain treatments, and it could be, if you're not emotionally equipped to do that, then you're not going to serve as a healthcare agent to the best of in the way that would be desired or hoped for. So knowing that person who you choose as your healthcare agent has the ability to make difficult decisions, even if it's not in line with their beliefs, but it's in line with your beliefs, that's critical. And a lot of people don't think about that. They just kind of take the easy path. Oh, my spouse is of course going to be my healthcare agent, or my daughter. But you need to make sure that they understand what your wishes are and are comfortable or at least willing to make those decisions. So I think that's really critical.
That's a great point. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And I'll just share a little bit that I see a lot of the times, and Dr. Bob just mentioned, a lot of the times people just name their spouse or their children without that conversation of whether that person nominated can actually make that decision for them. Oftentimes, it's too hard to make that decision, and they're just incapable of doing that emotionally. Right. So thank you so much.
Of course. And sometimes it's hard to have those conversations, and that's one of the things that we do when we meet with people is we help to initiate and guide those conversations, because people don't even know what questions to ask. They don't know what are the possible things that might come up that would be challenging. And so having been an ER doctor for 20 years and now working with a lot of people with complex and end-of-life issues, these things, they show up over and over again. So knowing that you can count on your healthcare agent to make the decisions that are aligned with you and your wishes, and then making sure that you've documented them and had those conversations is really critical.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And also, what people do you think need to have this kind of conversation? Of course, in my perspective, anybody over 18 should have an advanced healthcare directive, because that's when the law says no one else can make decisions for you unless you authorize them to. And so, Dr. Bob, can you share maybe in your practice who are the ideal people that should be having these kind of conversations?
Well, I agree with you. I think any adult, anyone over 18 should have an advanced healthcare directive and identify who it is that's going to speak for them and make decisions for them if they can't, because people have accidents, things happen that are not anticipated, and it doesn't only happen to people who are in their 80s and 90s. Of course, if you are dealing with an illness diagnosed with cancer, heart disease, neurologic diseases, that's when you really need to be much more proactive about getting your wishes documented and known and identifying who your healthcare agent is, because then you're just more likely to be in a situation where that comes into play. So we'd like to get people to have conversations with us as soon as they have a diagnosis made, regardless of how advanced it is, because there's a lot of things that are coming up for them at that point, and we can help them have a better sense of where some of the gaps in healthcare are that they might fall into, how they need to be advocating for themselves. So any adult should have an advanced healthcare directive. Anyone who's been diagnosed with any kind of a serious or significant condition, or is just reaching a very elderly stage, needs to get much more detailed and granular about what they would want or not want. Because the default position for the healthcare system is to do everything. And a lot of people, probably most people, don't want everything. They want what makes sense, what will give them a chance of having a reasonable quality of life, but they don't want to be hooked up to tubes and fed through tubes and be subjected to a very difficult, challenging existence just because they didn't let somebody know that that's not what they would want.
And actually, a friend of mine, just half a year ago, this happened to her, and she did have an advanced healthcare directive. The problem was that she did not specify what she wanted for nutrition and hydration. And so this is a very common problem we see in a lot of the form documents out there. They think, I'm just going to fill out the form. But there are a lot of little details that are critical in situations like that, right? And
there are nuances that people don't think about. The forms, the standard forms, just have the big rocks. They don't have anything about some of the nuances of what could happen that the healthcare agent needs to make decisions about. And if you give your healthcare agent carte blanche, which most advanced healthcare directives will do that, they can make any decisions on my behalf that I would make. So there's a lot of freedom that healthcare agents often have, but they often don't know what to do because they don't have the right information. You haven't had those detailed conversations, and the healthcare system in general isn't going to be able to guide them that sensitively. The doctors and nurses and everyone's busy. They often don't have the time or the inclination to really get deep into those conversations. So it's best if they can happen beforehand. So we talk about, when we meet with people and do these planning sessions, we talk about some of the things that the directives don't have and that a lot of doctors aren't preparing people for. If you have dementia and you get pneumonia, do you want to get treated, or do you want to allow that to be your sort of gentle exit? If you have a brain injury and there's a remote possibility that you could wake up sometime down the line and have some quality of life, but you don't really know how much time would you be comfortable waiting. There's so many questions, and when you've been in the ER and you've seen all these things happen, you can have more intelligent conversations and give people a better sense of security that they won't have to go through things that they're terrified about having to go through, that they'll have more power and control even if they're not able to voice things themselves.
Awesome. These are really, really valuable information here that Dr. Bob has shared with us. If you have any questions or if you want any support from us, please feel free to click the link down below, and we will be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just taking the making a little bit of an extra effort can be incredibly valuable and save people from, years of angst about not having made the right decisions or done things that they later regret. And we like to try to avoid that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching the video today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you.